Hello, and welcome to the Path to Freedom podcast, a podcast that is about how you can tap into the freedom that is inherent within you, regardless of what is going on in the external world. Freedom from fear, worry, and doubt. Freedom to follow your heart's desires. Freedom to live in joy, love, peace, and harmony. My name is Daniel Roqueo, and I'm your host. Hello, and welcome to this second episode of the Path to Freedom podcast. The topic of this episode is the gift of independent thinking. And independent thinking, learning to think independently, is how we move from wherever we are right now to the next step. Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Path to Freedom podcast. The topic of this episode is the gift of independent thinking. And this is the gift that really moves us along the path to freedom. Learning to think independently is essential. It's vital. It's the key if we want to be free. But before we get into it, I invite you into a moment of stillness. And so I invite you to close your eyes and take a breath. Take another deep, high, and holy breath. And just feel into how good it feels to come back to this moment, to the nowness of this moment, this high and holy moment of communion, this high and holy moment of being still, becoming still. And as we become still, we release and let go of all that which may bother us. Any negativity, animosity, resentment, any fear, worry, and doubt, we just let it wash off. Just release it and let go of it, because it doesn't serve us. And in this moment, we open up, we expand, becoming more open and available for the qualities of God: peace, joy, love, harmony, freedom, beauty, intelligence, creativity, wholeness, divine and perfect health, abundance. We allow that to emerge from within us. We bathe in it, we swim in it, releasing and letting go of that which no longer serves us, allowing expansion to take place. We rise up to a higher frequency, to a higher vibration, that we may be open and receptive during this episode to catch insights and revelations, that we may be open and available for the power of choice to move through us. It is done. It is done. The small and limited is dissolving. The new and expanded is emerging. It is done. As I release these words, I know that the law, the sacred laws that govern the universe, they respond, and they can only respond with an affirmative yes. A big, big yes. Yes and amen. That's what they're saying right now. More health. More wealth. More beauty. More joy. More peace. More love. More harmony. Creativity. Done. I know it. I feel it. I accept it. I give thanks for it. And I allow it to be. So it is, and so be it. Amen. You may now open your eyes. And welcome again. Because the you in this moment is not the same you as a minute ago when I welcomed you the first time. This is a new you. Open, available, eager, curious. So welcome. The topic, as I said, for this episode is the gift of independent thinking. It's a divine gift. It's the gift that separates us from perhaps all other forms of life that we know. We have, as humans, we have reflective consciousness, which means that we have the ability to think or be conscious about what we're thinking about. We have the ability to think independently of any and all circumstances, which means that we get to choose what we think, regardless of any and all circumstances. But before we get into that, let's start with the ego. Because the ego is the part of us. Or it's not a part of us, but it's that entity within us that gives rise to opinions and perceptions and point of views and perspectives and fear and worry and doubt. The average individual who are not free are under the aegis of the ego. They are run by their ego. Now, the ego has this mantra. I am not enough. There is not enough. That's the perception of the ego. And anyone who's run by the ego, that is their perception. I am not enough. There is not enough. And this gives rise to fear and worry and doubt and a sense of lack and separation and unworthiness. It is the reason why there's conflict in the world between individuals, in relationships, or between countries. Someone has an opinion, they believe that opinion, and they believe that everybody else needs to believe what they believe, or they won't be enough. What if I'm wrong? I vested all my worth and value into this opinion. And if I'm proven wrong, my worth and value will be diminished. It will be lessened. So this is where the ego comes from. It's always seeking validation and confirmation and acknowledgement. It's always seeking ways to hang on to it's sort of identity. I know Eckhart Tolle defines ego as identification with form, any kind of form. So an opinion or perception or point of view that we hang on to, we make it our own, and we fight for it. We fight for our right to be right. That's from the ego. The ego lives in a perpetual state of reaction. It is constantly surveying the surroundings and what happens in our external world, and it seeks to react to it. Always with the sense that it is not enough and it has not enough. So it needs to defend itself. It needs to fight. It needs to compete. This is not freedom. But this is just living from reaction to reaction to reaction to reaction. And so we have reaction, and then we have responding. Responding is something totally different. The ego reacts. Freedom responds. Freedom responding means to be in a situation, to look at a situation or circumstance and choose how we want to respond to it. Choose what we want to think, or how we want to think about the situation and the circumstance. Totally different frequencies, totally different vibrations, totally different modes of being. And we all have that ability in each and every moment to respond rather than to react. So in this moment, I invite you to take a couple of breaths. Just feel yourself opening and expanding. Feel yourself opening and expanding. Give yourself permission to release and let go of those small and limited thought patterns and opinions. Give yourself permission to let go of resentment, animosity. Give yourself permission to let go of all of that which no longer serves you. All of that which gives you nothing but pain and suffering. Just release it. You can get it back. I'm not asking you to release it forever. But for now, just in this moment, release it. And as you release it, feel that you're expanding, that you're coming back to your true nature as a spiritual being. A spiritual being, as I said in the first episode, not having a human experience, because the human experience is crazy. It's insane. Look at the news, read in the newspaper, go on social media, and people are reacting all over. Fear and worry and doubt are running amok. And it all comes from this perception of not being enough or having enough. And so individuals all over the world, the vast majority of all humans, seek to fill their lives with something that will compensate for their lack of self-esteem, lack of self-worth. They take it from other people, they compete, they fight for it, they manipulate for it. It's insane. The human perception, the human experience is insane. So we're not here to have a human experience. But we're here to have a human incarnation in which we choose our experience. Now, choice is a function of awareness. Choice is a function of awareness, which means that we all have been given the gift of independent thinking. Every single being on this planet has been given that gift. It's inherent within each of us. But we need to be aware that we have this ability. In the moment, we need to be aware that we have the ability to think independently, that we have the ability to choose our experience. Without that awareness, we're probably not going to choose, but we'll probably be pulled into reaction. We're all made in the image and likeness of God. A plant, an animal is made in the likeness of God. But we're made in the image and likeness of God, which means that we have the same faculties that God has. Now, God is not a man in the sky, but God is a presence that is everywhere, fully present everywhere. God is love and joy and peace and harmony and beauty and intelligence and creativity, wholeness. All that is good and well, that is God. So it's not some external deity that we have to please and appease. But God has that faculty. God can form an image or a thought and then allow it to manifest. We have that ability too, to think independently, which means that we may have an experience of perhaps financial scarcity. We may have a perception that we don't have enough money. And we can either let that reaction or that circumstance run our reaction. We can let that circumstance determine how we react, what we think, what we feel. And for an individual who is pulled and under the aegis of the ego, they'll be living in poverty, and they'll be living in a constant space and place of fear and worry and doubt, permanently thinking about how they're gonna make the ends meet. How can they get more money? How can they get more, period? That's reaction. An aware individual, as we move along the path of freedom, we gradually learn to respond, to utilize this gift of independent thinking, which means that in this circumstance, in this situation of perhaps financial lack or scarcity, we can still think and feel abundance. We can still think and feel more enoughness. We don't have to let the surface appearance of things to run us, but we run from within. We can choose to be run from within. Once again, I invite you to take a high and holy breath. And allow yourself to open and expand. Open and expand. Feel how peace is flowing through you. Feel how wholeness and wellness and abundance and beauty is flowing through you. Feel it expanding. You're not grabbing it from the world. You're not getting it from anyone else. But it's within you. You're allowing it to expand from within you. You're allowing it to emerge from within you. And this is how we learn to think independently. As we come back to the nowness of the moment, because the ego is trapped in time. Time being a human construct, time being the past or the present or the future. And please be aware that the present tense is not the same as the present moment or the nowness of this moment. Those are two different things. But time is made up by the past, the present, and the future. And most individuals predominantly live either in the past or the future. Past being run by stories that perhaps you've been told as a child, and told by your parents or by our teachers or culture or society, about who we are, what we're capable of, what money is, what freedom is, what love is, all those perceptions and beliefs that we carry with us. Most of them come from the past. Or others predominantly live in the future, constantly afraid and fearful of what the future might hold. And so they're seeking to navigate and protect themselves and shield themselves, just simply to avoid that future. And this is not an episode on the sacred laws, but we cannot not mention them. That there are sacred laws governing all of our universe and our cosmos, and that everything has a cause and an effect. What we predominantly think and feel will ultimately manifest in some future moment. These are laws. It's nothing ever happens out of chance or luck or happenstance. There are no random events, but everything is lawful. There's divine order. And so whatever we predominantly think and feel, which makes up our vibration, ultimately will manifest. Vibration is cause, manifestation is effect. Or another way of saying it, form always follows consciousness. So whatever we keep alive and active within us, in our consciousness, in our feeling body, we lawfully call into manifestation as an experience later on. So some individuals predominantly live in the past, some individuals predominantly live in the future, but all of that is being under the aegis of the ego. The ego is trapped in time. The ego cannot exist outside of time. And so as we come back to the nowness of this moment through breathing, through meditation, contemplation, we break free from the ego. We break free from opinions. Because I'm not saying that we're not to have opinions. Everybody has opinions about everything, or most things at least. Opinions just seem to arise within us. And that's all right. And I want you to understand that whatever comes up, whatever you think, whatever you experience, it is all right. It is all right. And so I ask you not to resist or seek to deny anything. But whatever comes up, embrace and allow it to be. Because resisting and seeking to deny, as we're talking about spiritual laws, resisting and denying only serves to perpetuate and magnify and amplify the very thing that we're resisting. So I'm inviting you to embrace and allow whatever comes up to come up. But embracing and allowing is not the same as believing. It is not the same as being run by. Embracing and allowing is simply observing. And from that space and place of observing, we get to choose. Not to be run by fear, not to be run by worry, not to be run by our past stories or future doubts. We come back to the nowness of this moment and we choose to respond with peace, with love, abundance, trust. We get to choose to trust life more than fear. We get to choose to trust God more than worry and more than the ego. Another thing I want you to understand is that the ego is desperately fighting for you to stay right where you are. It is literally fighting for its life, because as we move along the path of freedom, the more liberated we become, the lesser the power of the ego becomes. And the ego knows this, so it seeks with all means available to get you to stay right where you are. It does not want you to break free of your current small and limited paradigm. And when I'm saying small and limited, it's not an opinion, it's not a judgment at all. It's just that I know that wherever we are, we're living in a small and limited paradigm, perception of life, compared to where we're going to be a week from now, or a month from now, or a year from now. So please don't take it as a judgment. I'm not criticizing, I'm just pointing out that our future selves will be way more open and expansive and expanded than we are right now. So from that perception, from that perspective, our current perception and perspective is small and limited. And the ego wants to keep you there with all means available. So we need to come back to the nowness of this moment, which is the purpose of meditation, which is the purpose of prayer, which is the purpose of all of the spiritual practice, hanging out with high and holy people in high fellowship, sacred service, sacred study, and all that. And all of this, the principles that we're discussing in this episode and others, they're simple. The principles are simple. The practice is simple. Yet, of course, it's not always easy. In fact, it's oftentimes hard. Let's get that straight. It's hard. It's hard work. It's hard work. We need to practice to the best of our ability. And we need to practice not every once in a while, not every third weeks, not once in a month, not every 2 weeks, but we need to practice daily. This is a daily practice. Just like building muscles or getting your body back in shape. It takes practice, regular, consistent, constant practice. That's what we're talking about here too. We need to practice. To remember. I love that statement. We need to practice to remember. To remember that we are to remember to come back to this moment. because it's so easy to forget. It is so easy to be pulled into reaction. Someone says something and immediately the ego grabs us, prepares us to fight, to strike back, because we need to, according to the ego, we need to retain our value. We need to retain our worth. And so, as the ego perceives it, whenever someone else is attacking us, that value and worth is threatened. And if we don't strike back, it will be diminished, it'll lessen. That of course is not true, but that's the perception of the ego. I am not enough, there is not enough, so I need to fight for the little that I am and the little that I have, that I may grow, that I may become more. And so we need to come back to the nowness of this moment, to this holy moment, this holy now, on a regular and consistent basis. Because there we create a little space between us and the reaction, between us and the opinion. And in that space, in the beginning, it's a small space. In the beginning, it's not even noticeable. But with practice, it'll grow larger and larger and larger. And you'll find yourself, if you keep practicing, you'll find yourself one day realizing that, hey, that person said something to me. That person criticized me or attacked me. But I'm not affected by it. I hear what the person is saying. I'm aware of it. But I'm not run by my ego. I'm not run by the need, the false need to protect myself. But I can stay open and expanded, and I can respond with love and compassion and forgiveness, kindness. This is freedom. Getting to choose how to respond, getting to choose how to think. Not letting the world control us, not letting the world run us, not letting the world pull us into reaction. Another way of saying it, as it is a practice, we need to give up our excuses, because that's another way for the ego to keep us in our present paradigm, letting us believe that it's someone else's fault. They're to blame. He did that, she did that, they did that, and therefore I have the right to be angry. Therefore, I have the right to be unhealthy. I have the right to be poor. I have the right to be uncreative. Whatever the stories we hold. It is never someone else's fault. You, me, all of us, we are 100% responsible for our own emotional, mental, physical well-being. We're all 100% responsible for what we think, what we feel, how we act. No one can take that away from us. The ego wants us to believe that someone else holds the power or the key to our happiness or joy or peace or love or compassion or divine and perfect health, abundance. They do not. They do not. So we learn to bracket our opinions, we learn to release and let go of negativity, animosity, we learn to give up excuses. This is the work. My friends, this is the work. The work that each of us has to do on a constant and regular basis to the best of our ability. Take a breath. Open and expand. Open and expand. Allow peace to reign supreme. Release and let go that which no longer serves you. Open and expand. And this is how we do it, by coming back to the nowness of this moment. And I say the words open and expand, and that's my call to action. Those are the words that I use whenever I become aware of being snagged by external circumstances or being snagged by the ego. I take a breath. I say to myself, open and expand. And immediately something happens. Immediately. Nah, not always immediately. But most of the time, something happens. Because I remember to remember. I come back to the nowness of this moment. And this is where, as we come back to the nowness of this moment, this is where we make ourselves open and available for the qualities of God, for God to flow through us. We've broken free from the ego. There's nothing obstructing or standing in the way from God to flow through us. So that's how we do it. It takes practice daily, daily, daily. But we have the ability, it is inherent within us, each of us, to think independently of any and all circumstances. It is totally possible to think abundance in an experience of lack. It is totally possible to think divine and perfect health in an experience of disease or illness. It is perfectly possible to think about prosperity in an experience of not being very successful. The past has no power over us unless we give it power. It is the nowness of this moment that is the only important thing. And so, before we leave, I invite you to close your eyes once again. Feel how good it feels to come back to this moment. Feel how good it feels to be in this moment, this high and holy moment. And I know that right where each of us are, something beautiful and wonderful is happening. That right now, right here, miracles are taking place, healing is taking place. That right now, right here, more love, joy, peace, abundance, health, prosperity, beauty, creativity, intelligence is gushing into our lives. That in this moment we're releasing and letting go of all that which no longer serves us. That the small and limited may dissolve, disintegrate, be transmuted back into the nothingness from which it came, that the new and expanded may emerge. It is happening now, and there's nothing against us, everything is for us. It is happening now, and it is done. It is not something that will happen, but it is happening now, and in the mind of God, it's already done. And as we open ourselves, as we expand ourselves, all that which previously has stopped it from becoming is now being dissolved. Small and limited thinking, gone. Holding on to past stories, gone. Open and expansive. So I release these words. I know it, I feel it, I accept it, I give thanks for it, I allow it to be, and the law responds with an affirmative yes. That's the only way the law can respond. There's no denial. There's no delay. It's only yes. So as I release these words, I know it, I feel it, I accept it, I give thanks for it, I allow it to be. So it is, and so be it. Amen. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. Hope to see you the next time. Blessed be your day. Blessed be your way. You have been listening to an episode of the Path to Freedom podcast with me, Daniel Roqueo. Please stay tuned for more episodes. And for even more inspiration and empowerment, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. I also invite you to visit my website, danielroqueo.com. Blessings of love and light to you.